for the audience out there. Number one is, I want you to see that the mentor here, Kris Krohn, right? You're on this podcast, is coachable.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so awesome, right? It's so many times when we're at the top and we're coaching so many other people, people forget we're coachable too.
Welcome back to the Kris Krohn Show. I am joined by Bart Miller, the billion-dollar cowboy. What's up, man? How you doing?
Not much. I'm good. How are you?
Dude, start us off real quick. I want everyone listening to know like who you are, because you're Mr. Renaissance dude. Like you're out there in a major marketing way with your masterminds, and you're helping Russell Brunson do all of his shopping for his thises and that's, and then you also literally do rodeo in a big way, and you're a bodybuilder and you're a cyclist, and like, dude, you're kind of like a whole bunch of everything. Let us know who you are.
Well, I think you just did. That was pretty good. I just want to bring you along, announce me on the stage. I'm a guy that was raised from a humble farm. I ran away when I was a little kid, 10 years old, if you want to know the real story, and ended up living with my grandmother and my father without my siblings in a little town called Rigby, Idaho. And from there,
dude, how did you get away with that without your parents coming and just like kidnapping you back home?
Yeah, it was interesting. At that point in time, my mom hadn't filed for divorce yet.
Okay.
And so I could leave the state, and it's a crazy story. We won't get into it to here, but when I left there, it was really interesting when I got to the farm, because that's where I was raised, right? When you're raised on a farm, you learn a lot of things and a lot about yourself. And at that point in time, I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew it inside of me. And so from that day forward, I just started learning a lot of things, and I was not a good student. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but I was a horrible student. And I went to college, decided I wanted to try that. And I'll never forget, I was in my first year of college, literally in an economics class, and had an amazing professor. No fault of his, but he was telling us some stuff, and I raised my hand and I said, hey, if you could do this, why aren't you doing it? And he goes, because those who do are out there and those who can't teach. And he made that statement, and he would made it kind of in a joking way, but it just hit home.
Wait, that was like self-deprecating? He's just like, yeah. I can't do it, that's why I'm teaching?
But kind of that way, but in a nice way, but kind of funny, joking. And this guy's super brilliant. No, I won't even bring his name up because he really is an awesome person. But I listened to that, Kris, and it was the weirdest thing. I don't know if you've ever had this happen. I'm sure you have, but it just came across to me as like, why are you here? What are you really doing? And I'll never forget the moment. I walked out of that class. I went home to my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. And I looked at her and I said, I'm done with college. And she goes, what? I said, I'm done. I just know I've got more in me and I got to do this. She goes, yeah, but you need this degree. Your dad's a teacher. My dad's a teacher. My mom's a teacher. Like, education is the thing. That's why you're here. That's why you've been working so hard. And I said, you know what? I don't know. Just something inside me. I need to go. I need to do something else. I was like a caged animal. Like I really was. And I remember leaving there, and then that monkey voice that comes in. I don't know if you ever have that thing, but it's like, you're a moron. Go back to school.
Right,
you're an idiot.
We all have one of those, except I think we have like 1,000 of them.
Thank goodness. I'm glad everybody else has one because, man, it worries me. When that sucker comes in, it was just like, what am I doing? I was in a panic attack. I didn't know what panic attacks were.
Bro, I was not as brave as you because one of my voices in my head was like, dude, ditch this place. You're building your business. You're having success.
Okay.
And then it was my mother-in-law on my shoulder. It's like, I'm going to kill you if you don't get a degree. You'll amount to nothing.
Well, that was my dad and all this family, right? So instantly I was like, what am I going to do? And so I went and got a job selling saddles. And I loved sales, Kris. It was like, really? It was so fun. We had this leaderboard and all this stuff, and I was the youngest one there, and I was like, this is awesome. And I just did really well. And then those Jewish gentlemen.
Can I just ask, is there a lot of money in selling saddles?
Probably back then there wasn't, but for me, it was a ton of money.
Okay.
I was doing really well and selling Western boots, and we were right on the corner. So when people would go to Yellowstone National Park, it was interesting. It was kind of a pit stop.
Yeah.
So it was pretty busy. Anyway, this gentleman walks in one day, and I get done selling him. He looks at me and he goes, you're going to come work for me.
Oh, wow. He saw your talent.
Yeah, you're like we all do.
Did you do it?
I actually ended up doing it.
Whoa, what was he offering and selling?
Furniture.
Wait, so you went from saddles and boots to furniture.
Totally, right? And long story there, I worked for him, really climbed up the ladder, and he had a gentleman that was working for him. Now, this is something in business to keep in mind. Well, we had a competition between the two stores because he had a location in Pocatello and one in Rigby, Idaho. At that point in time, there was a competition, and I felt like my team and I had won this competition. Okay. And the gentleman that was running the store said, no, you both split this and you're not going to make this much money. And I said to this gentleman, look, here's all the numbers. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Down to the penny. Someone had to win.
I said, we won. He said, no. I said, I'm telling you, if I don't get that, I'm leaving this thing. He goes, you're making too much money. You won't leave. And that's what you don't do to this guy.
Yeah.
I said, bullshit. And he goes, he leaves the store. So I just walked out behind him a half hour later, left the store open, didn't give a shit, unlocked, got in my car and left.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, like a week goes by, my wife's like, what are you going to do? I get a phone call from the owner. Kudos to him. He was awesome. He called me up and he said, look, what happened was wrong. I want you to come back. I'll pay the bonus. And I said, you know what? Thank you, but I'm not interested. If you have people like that in your situation that aren't going to be moral and ethical with me, I'm out. Now, big decision. I don't know why I was so adamant about it, but he did send me the check, just so we're clear. It was very awesome of him. But I left there, and my father-in-law was very worried about me and my wife at that time, rightfully so. And he said, hey, I saw an advertisement for being a marketing person for a TV station. And I said, oh, really? I think that would be awesome. I don't really know a ton about marketing, but I'd love it. So I went and applied. But he told me the wrong place.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. So I go in there, the secretary's like, we're not having any jobs. But the manager that was over the TV station happened to hear me. So he walks down the store. His name is Jim Coons, amazing guy. He goes, come back and interview with me. So I went back and I interviewed with him. He goes, I'll give you a job right now. Don't even go to those guys and just stay here and I'll help you in marketing world. And I was like, no, I've got to interview with the other company. He's like, okay, but you'll be back. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that, because you just don't know. You're kind of, I don't know. Maybe I was a little arrogant. So I went over to
sales. By the way, everyone in sales and marketing is
yeah, a little bit. Okay. So I was like, nah, this is going to be great. So I get over to the other interview and literally within 5 seconds, I'm like, I am never working at this place ever. I'm out. Right. So I called up Jim. I said, I'm in. And that company was owned by Retlaw Broadcasting, which at the time I had no idea. If you spelled that backwards, that's Walter. Walt Disney owned us, okay? And Lillian Disney, his wife, anyway, I won't get into that whole story. But long story short, that's what started my marketing career. And that's when I really learned marketing done right alleviates the need to sell. It makes your sales guys order takers. Because if you know how to prep people the right way and do the strategies right, everything comes together. And I learned another really, really cool principle. The ducks don't fly every month. Now, a lot of people, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I actually have no idea.
Right? This is good. Because what I learned is everybody wants to spend marketing dollars every single freaking month instead of when the ducks are flying. I'm not going to go duck hunting in July.
Got it.
Not going to happen to me.
Totally
I might
sense.
as well be doing my preparation, getting my guns clean, doing all my stuff, be ready to rock and roll. But when the time is right,
you got to strike.
I want to market like I've never marketed before.
Yeah.
But what these people do is they get in their head they should be marketing all the time, and then when they need extra money, they need all that, they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind. And this new internet marketing trend that people are always like, I got to spend. I was like, look, wait a minute. Tell me your top 3 freaking months. Like literally. How much are you invested in those? And are you spending so much money that the internet can't keep up with you? No. Are you ready for that kind of volume? No. Why not?
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant, but that's what taught me that principle because I started getting with these guys. And then what I would do, which blew my mind, is the radio was against the TV was against the billboards, and I was like, bullshit. We need to all win together. Because if I make, like Kris, if you were the business, if I make you win, you're going to want me for an entire year. So I'd set up a plan with, you need this much radio, this much TV, you need all these things. And I would sell them an annual plan. And I would just include these other guys in it because I knew how important it was when those ducks were flying to crush it. And that's what started to build me in that. Long story to end that was, Retlaw sold that company. The owner of the company flew in, sat with me and said, hey, you built this program on my time, so therefore I want you to go train across this and teach people this program. I said, absolutely not unless you pay me more. He goes, you'll never make it in the company unless you do it. Once again, one of those crossroads in the world. I'm like, I'm out.
So you have a pattern that you rise up.
Right.
And then when you hit the natural ceiling where they're like, no, just stay with us. It'll never be better.
Yeah.
You don't mind bailing.
I don't mind. And so
I just got to say that's really backwards, Bart, because the majority of people out there, they actually do get afraid. They climb the charts.
Well,
and then once they're at their top, they're like, I just got to stay and claim my spot.
Kris, I get so freaking scared. But inside of me, there's just this beast. I mean, I'm wearing it probably. It just is like, no, I'm not going to be told that I can't. And it drives me crazy. And I know it does you too.
What do you think that voice comes from? Like, what is that?
Man, I really think
is it pride and arrogance or is it something deeper?
I think it's God, the universe, knows what your potential is. And I think it's some of the times in resistance, we're so afraid that it stifles us. And go ahead.
I mean, I want to tangent for a second because I remember when you were telling me about your bodybuilding competition, like, I'm going to find the dude out in California. I'm going to train with him. I'm going to do it once, do it right. And you told me you got the sword.
I did.
Which means that you took first place in your entire overall category.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like it's just kind of something that you do.
Well, I do, like you. If I'm going to do it, I go all in. And sometimes I'm telling you, it kicks me in the butt. But most of the time, it's because I win. And from there, this is what I love about this. And I don't know if you know this about me. That's when I bought my first real estate company and my first mortgage company and the for sale by owner in our area.
Wow.
So that was when that all happened. And that was with, he was a friend at that point in time, but ended up marrying my sister-in-law, which is a cool story. But how I ended up getting into real estate. And so I just love to watch what you're doing and all the cool things that are happening. But my career just started to build on each other in the marketing and all that kind of stuff. So
where did you go from there?
So from real estate, got into international business, and I started selling reformulated fuels and lubricants all over the world. And then I started from there, got out of that, and then had a crazy thing happen in that business and got into internet marketing. I was able to go to a Tony Robbins, Chet Holmes event, which was their ultimate business mastery.
Yep.
The very first one they ever did in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was able to go there. I actually met Tony for the first time there. And there, it was a game changer. I could see something like there is in the world today, which I hate to even compare it, but it really was. It was like the internet was so new, but I knew it was the thing. And I had a guy that was very cool at that point in time. His name is Jeremy Johnson. And if you guys know him, anyway, Jeremy was big into the internet space. He asked me to help him on a few projects, and he's the one that helped me learn where the internet was going and how to do some internet marketing businesses. If you want me to expand on that, I'm happy to. But it really taught me that if I ever fail, how to be successful in the internet marketing space.
So your career it started in sales.
Yes.
It looped into marketing.
Yes.
And it's been in marketing ever since.
Yes.
And basically you climb as high as you can. At some point, though, you left the corporate world of working for other people.
Yep.
What did it look like when you started just working for yourself?
Well, first and foremost, it scared the crap out of me because there was so many things I didn't know. Like I had no idea of taxes, how to look at things.
Even payroll. I think payroll
exactly
keeps most people out of entrepreneurship. They're like, shit, I don't want to be responsible for someone else's livelihood. Right. I'm just trying to figure out how to figure out my own livelihood.
And insurance. And then the first time you got to let somebody go.
Yeah, firing people, hiring people.
My gosh.
Right.
And then hiring somebody that steals from you. For the first time of knowing what it's like that you're like, oh, you would do that to me?
Right.
Are you kidding me right now?
Or also just sometimes a lot of new entrepreneurs, did you ever find yourself hiring people that you could control so that you could be like the head honcho?
Well,
or did you, I don't know, did you not
I
make that
hired
mistake?
People that I wanted to be my best friend.
Oh, even worse.
Worse. I know.
I did that one. I hired my best friends, and trust me, it didn't work out very well.
Oh, it was such a bummer because I just wanted people to.
It's like entrepreneurship 101. I wish someone could like make like 2 tablets of thou shalt and shall nots, because like the shall nots is you don't hire your family, you don't hire your friends, you don't hire people that you want to like you, and you don't hire people that you can control. Yeah. Instead, the thou shalt is hire A players that are better than you in every single way that will run circles around you.
Yeah,
but it takes a certain amount of confidence to be able to hire people that are better than you.
Which I love about that. Here's what I do. What I look at it this way, Kris, is there's a 20% that we're the best at.
Yeah.
There's always a 20%, right?
Yeah.
And my 20%, I mean, I'll put it up against anybody. So what I like to do is look at all those people that have their 20%, because they're not better than me in my 20%, but they're better than everybody else at their 20%. So if I hire you in real estate, that 20%, I can't lose.
Yeah.
You hire me at my 20%, you can't lose. Yeah. And if I hire another 20%, we're all winners, like you said, A players. Yeah. And what happens to everything? Because I'm driving the crap out of you, you're driving the crap out of me. Everybody's in there trying to just make things happen. Miracles happen.
So last year when I went out into Idaho at your retreat, I met all of these really successful internet marketers. You have this high-level mastermind, and it was such good company for me because I'm anemic on online internet marketing experts, and was able to like connect with a lot of really amazing superstars.
I'm so glad.
But what was so amazing is that you were surrounding yourself with those people. Yeah. And you have a history of surrounding yourself with really amazing people. That's what always interests me about you is I feel like you're always asking who's the best and how do I connect with them so I can have this amazing shortcut and basically ride to the top and find a new ceiling. Yeah. And then you're going to ask, how do I make my ceiling my new floor?
Yeah. Well, you just said it here a second ago, so I'll tell the story. I think I've said it before to you, but I'm always looking for the recipe. I think it's a shortcut in life. And I ask this all the time when I'm speaking on stage. I'm like, could you cook brownies from scratch? No recipe, no nothing, full on scratch. And a lot of people, once in a while you have people that are like, yeah, I can totally do it, which is awesome, let's be clear.
But then there's guys like me who are like, just add water, that's it. That's all I can do. And even then, I'm still going to outsource it.
Seriously, I'm that way. But if I give most people, including both of us, a recipe, and I say, you've got to follow it. I mean, you've got to follow it. People can do it.
It's true.
But what's funny is that even if we find the recipe, for some reason as humans, we think we can bake it for an extra 10 minutes. Or we can add this, or we can add that. And it's like, no, you gotta follow it, right? And when you follow that recipe, miracles happen. So in the bodybuilding world, that's all I go for now. So if I'm gonna invest in something, I'm looking at, is this really what I want? So I wanted to win in the physique category, right? Not the bodybuilding category, because I knew I wasn't big enough to do that, right? So I looked for the number one coach, I looked for the recipe, I went to that recipe, and I literally stood in front of this man. And I gotta show you the pictures one of these days. Like I'm around all these world-class bodybuilders, champions. I'm the dude sitting in the middle of him, and he says, take your shirt off and flex. And I'm like, shoot. Have you seen me? I'm a cyclist at this point in time. Skinny little thing, stand there, and my wife and my kids are there, Kris.
Oh, so this is like potential humiliation.
Oh, it was like so
especially
embarrassing.
when like masculine hierarchy
Oh,
is constantly
amen.
like, I know where I rank physically in relation to all these guys, and I'm about to be the scrawny kid.
I was so embarrassed, and I took my shirt off, and he looked at me. I did my thing, and those guys were so cool. So cool. We got done. I looked at him, and I said, can I do it? And he goes, yes. I said, how do you know? He goes, because I've looked at so many bodies that I know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I thought back to my animal days. Like if you ever raise a steer to sell for 4-H, there's a certain criteria, or a pig or anything else, that when you get in front of the judges, they know if it's going to win or not going to win. And I was like, I'm just another cow. I just got to follow the process. I know that's a crazy way to put it, but honest to God, it just made it so much easier for me.
Yeah. I got that coach for me right now, and I'm on my way to 265 pounds.
So awesome.
I just hit 257, which means I'm within 8 pounds, which is the heaviest, by the way, I've ever been in my entire life.
So cool.
And I cannot wait to cut. I'm looking forward to this brutal cut,
right?
To strip 25 pounds off and take that stage.
So cool. I'm so excited for you because your coach is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, you introduced me to him.
He's a great guy.
So, currently you're involved in something called the Epic movement.
Mm-hmm.
I do Epic.
I do.
Right? I know it's on my hat. It's on my clothes.
Love it.
It's on my CEO's clothes and hat.
That's so cool.
Tell me a little bit about this movement, what it's about.
Yeah, so my movement is that I really found out in my career and a lot of people's career that they don't know how to architect their life. And so what they do is life architects for them. And so they've never architected their life by design. And what I looked at back in my career was...
Can we pause on this for a second?
Yeah,
actually, I think you just dropped a huge golden nugget. And for anyone listening,
okay.
I actually feel like this might be one of the most important things that we talk about today, just because there's so many people that are reactors instead of creators.
Amen.
Same letters,
Yep.
two opposite words.
Love that.
Reactors are just waiting for life to do something. And it's like life is happening to them, but it's certainly not happening for them.
Amen.
And no one would ever want to be called a victim, but victimhood simply means to live life and not understand your choices.
Exactly.
I have a choice in front of me, but I don't understand all of its angles, which means that if I make the choice, I can't actually take accountability for what comes back because I don't understand all of it. It's like Neo in the Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill.
So good.
Right? And
That's
so for you to say, no, this is not about reacting. This is about creating. Yeah. This is about designing. This is about architecting, which I subscribe very much to. It's like, this is my life. Like, I'm not going to let, I'll just give you an example. I have a brother-in-law who, got out of his PhD program to be a professor of business. Yeah. And then that whole year was a COVID year. So a lot of universities were actually not hiring professors. He had just spent all this time and all this money, all these years, and then he couldn't land something. And then the next year he actually got something, but because there was so many scarce opportunities, it was pretty much, I'm going to uproot my family and move wherever an opportunity is going to be placed in front of me. And when he was talking about, there was a part of me as an entrepreneur, I'm a free spirit, right? So like, there's a part of my soul just dying inside, just like, someone's going to tell you like what they're going to pay you and what you're worth, and they're going to tell you your hours, and then they're going to tell you where to live and how to live. And like, so much has been predetermined, of course, by his choice. Yeah. But once he made the choice to go to that route, then so much was actually made for him. And God, it's hard for me.
Yeah, it's hard for me.
It's hard for me because it's not enough freedom. It's not enough spontaneity. It's not enough choice. So will you just dive in a little deeper as you share them this story about what it means to create and architect your life versus letting someone else just kind of dish it up for you?
Yeah, I got two stories for you. Number one is, I'll never forget the story of Joe Polish, if you happen to know who he is. He was telling this story about how he was in the carpet cleaning business.
Yep.
And he was just not making what he wanted to make. And so he had this opportunity to go jet skiing with this real estate guy that was just, boy, maybe it was Kris Krohn. No, just kidding. It's a totally real estate guy making a ton of money in the real estate world. And so he's like, I'm going to go jet skiing with him. I'm going to figure out what he's doing in this. And basically, I want to get in the real estate world. So he gets out there, they're jet skiing along. And the guy was just wise enough to look at Joe and said, hey, Joe, he goes, is there anybody in your space, in the carpet cleaning space, that's making what you want to make right now? And Joe said, yeah, there is. And he goes, then it's not the space, it's you. And I was like, wow, how many times have I looked at something, architected my life, and then I'm like, oh, selling Smurfs just isn't going to work. Like, I can't make it. But yet there is somebody in the space making that kind of money, but I don't take ownership of what I did, and I'm not committed enough to what I architected. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it made me go, okay, I've got to make this even stronger. And this will lead me into story number 2, and I think you're going to love this. I started to watch a lot of the Navy SEALs. And I looked at them, and I always looked up to them because, they look so ripped and just awesome, right? And one day, I happened to have an opportunity to talk to one of them. And he goes, what you see on the outside isn't important. What you're missing is the mental capacity of a Navy SEAL. Wow. And I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, when we get captured, all of this goes away. But what they want out of us is what's up here. And he goes, if we break up here mentally, then we've devastated the world.
And you've lost everything.
You've lost everything. So when we go through buds, it's to see how tough we are here, not how tough we are here. Remember that. He goes, how tough you are up here is what makes all the difference in the world. And I went back to that other story, and I was like, that's because I'm not strong enough. When I architect this, I'm not mentally know when I go through hell or things are tough that I'm going to be okay. So what happens to me? I want to jump ship, or I want to do this, or I'll tell you all the secrets, just let me out of here, right? Kind of crap. So I had to learn that architecting your life doesn't mean it's always going to be easy. Doesn't mean there's not going to be challenges. It does mean mentally I have to stay in the game, stay on course, and I've got to work through what I need to learn, because if somebody else is doing it, guess what? So can I.
Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, a survivor of Auschwitz, the worst concentration camp, at one moment said, I realized that they could take everything away from me, because they did. They killed his wife. They took his marriage band, wedding ring. They took his clothes. They took everything from him. They said they can take everything except for the attitude you choose in any given circumstance.
So good.
And I feel like that's what you're saying right now, is that it's like, wow, that's that inner beast from within. That is the most important part of us at our core, is who we choose to be, especially in our most difficult circumstances.
Amen to that. And so when I found that out, I decided that I wanted to help others to architect their life by design. So I started to create everything around that. So when I start to talk to somebody, it's like, what is your why? What do you want in life? And it's so funny. It's like, I want a Ferrari. They want all these things. But reality is that's not their why. It's way deeper than that. And when you get to the core of a human being and you figure out their why, changes life for them. Yeah. Then you can really start to architect their life, and you can get them in the direction, and then they can get those things down
It's
the
interesting
road.
They do it inside out, right? They're always like focusing on strategy. It's like, how are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? I'm like, the how doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Like, you got to really connect to that, because actually the why is what pulls you through difficult times. People that are connected to the how, the moment the how stops working, they disconnect.
Amen.
But those that are connected to a why, they will stick with it through thick and thin. I think of some of my heroes out there, like Walt Disney. Mm-hmm. He was turned down nearly 1,000 times on getting funding for his first motion picture of his cute little cartoon mouse.
Yep.
And yet, who would get turned down that many times from a bank?
Yep.
Like, only someone that had a why so deep. They were so convicted.
Yep.
They were so committed.
Yeah.
And so that's actually really big. I wonder how that why relates to why once you felt the push and shove at the top of a food chain of an organization, you would then bail.
Well, I think it's because I knew that I had more in me, and I knew that if I didn't go get that, I'd always look back at my life.
Your why was about your potential.
Yeah.
What's the earliest memory that you have of this idea that you have to meet your potential?
I think the first time I started in sales. It struck something in me that I knew I had more capability than I thought I knew. Because the way I was raised was I never did understand what I was capable of. And I think that's a funny thing in humans is, I'll use an analogy. Like it's really interesting that we can buy a car. Now imagine this, Kris. We got a full capacity of the car is 200 miles an hour. Let's just say, okay. But most people that have a car like that, let's say for example, they get in there and they only take the car to 55 or to 70 because that's the speed limit. But they've never actually understand the full capacity of what the car is. So the car lives in maybe a quarter of its capacity its whole entire time. Humans, I think we're a lot that way. So many of us maybe think like I can see another human that can go 200 mile an hour, but my full capacity is really 70, what it's not. So they limit themselves so much, they never give themselves a chance to find out what full capacity really is. So I don't know if this is striking something with you, but go ahead.
No, it does. I mean, we limit ourselves in our beliefs of what we're capable of and what we can do. We definitely limit ourselves, I think, and sometimes the character we express.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of us are just nervous to express full character of like, wow, I can be outgoing and I can be gregarious and can be charismatic. And meanwhile, there's this struggle inside to be introverted and to be shy and to be nervous and to be, lack confidence. And I think that's going 50 miles an hour when you have 200 mile an hour capability. It's like, what does it actually look like to open up? I just got back from Baja, and my Can-Am was capable of on the highway. The fastest I could go was 89 miles an hour.
Okay.
Now this is in Baja mode, tricked out for sand dunes, really rigorous terrain, riding along the beach, really difficult passageways. And when I started out that first week, I was driving 30 to 40 miles an hour, and my adrenaline was all over the place.
Yeah.
By the end of the full immersive week, by the last day, I got up to 84 miles an hour on a trail, right? And I was opening up 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, and my confidence grew, and I was basically opening up that engine to get to its full capacity. And even then, I bet I only got up to 80%. It's and that's 1 week. I got to go back next year with this whole group again, and have all of these level ups and so experiences, because I'm driven the same thing. I'm driven to meet my potential, whatever it is.
So what's interesting in that story that you said right there, I'd love to know, I believe in coaches and mentors a lot, and I know you do too. But in that time period when you're at the 35, 40 mile an hour zone, who did you have in your ear saying you've got more capacity? Was it you or somebody else at the same time?
I actually, for most of the week, by accident, not by design, I had a professional race driver with me.
Interesting.
And he was critiquing me and teaching me, and I sat in his rig and he sat in mine.
Wow. And
then I would watch him drive, and then he'd watch me drive. And that whole time he was pushing me, saying, more here, left turn, tap the brakes, then you got to punch it. And it was so cool because it felt like, desert racing school.
Yeah, so you found the recipe and you found the mentor,
yes,
and you accelerated everything.
And the dude
so
had done
quickly.
the Baja. He won top 20 place on Baja, in one of his years. I mean, these are $500,000 trophy trucks, and he's been doing this for over 20 years.
So his certainty and his ability in you to know what you could do drove you
100%
to try to get to the full throttle.
Oh my gosh! Sometimes when we go full throttle, I'm like, I'm gonna fall off the road. I'm gonna roll. He's like, you're not gonna roll. I've never rolled once. Just gas it and hit it hard. I'm like, no. He's like, trust me, do it.
I love that.
And when I would drive the way he wanted me to drive, I could start hitting closer to that potential. And it was amazing.
So two really cool things for the audience out there. Number one is, I want you to see that the mentor here, Kris Krohn, right? You're on this podcast, is coachable.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so awesome, right? It's so many times when we're at the top and we're coaching so many other people forget we're coachable too. And it's awesome.
What's really weird is sometimes I'm not coachable.
Really?
I came into this program last month. I've made millions of dollars leading masterminds in the coaching space.
Yeah.
And I decided, because I had a bunch of really close friends doing this program, like, I'll do it with you guys. And the facilitator was vetting whether she wanted to let me in. And she's like, well, what do you think is going to be hardest for you? I said, honestly, starting with the beginner's mind and being teachable, because I know she makes a lot less money than me.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't have the level of success that I do. And yet I know actually that when I'm totally teachable, if I'm in the right scene, it doesn't actually matter. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. I'm going to find my next level.
Yeah.
And but I would say most of the time I'm like, I love being the dumbest kid in the room, and I'm hungry for knowledge and experience. But once in a while, that ego rears its ugly head, and I'm like, oh, crap.
Well, I think that's for all of us. But I would say 99% of the time, you're very coachable and want to learn, and especially when it's new and fun environments that are different, that spark our brain.
Yeah.
But when we learn and we start to do that, it translates into so many things. I heard you the other day, well, it was actually today, talk about the Baja 100, and you described it from the very beginning. And when you got done, I'm like, is that not business? And you're like, yeah. And you architected, before you ever went there, you had an architect of what you thought. Now, you didn't know that you wanted to have as an experience. So I call that setting an intention.
Yes.
And so many times in life, when we architect our life by design, and we set the right intentions with that, which is so we can manifest, so we can see what's on our vision board, all of a sudden it's amazing how miracles start to line out. Do you see that in your life too?
Oh, 100%. I can't imagine doing life without an intention. But I find like most people that I feel like I interact with are intentionless, where I'm like, Bro, stop being so robotic. It's almost like they don't believe in free agency, but rather this self-determinism where it's like, well, everything's been pretty much lined up for me and I'm just going to be what I'm going to be. And it's like this robotic way of being. I'm like, no, you're a free agent. At least I think we are.
Yeah.
Like evaluate all of your choices, understand all of your choices. And so intention is actually a really important part of, I think, anything. Like, I have a hard time doing anything without an intention. My morning starts at 4 a.m. with a meditation on the treadmill, and there's an intention of what I want to get out of that experience. Today, it was like, oh my gosh, over the weekend, I struggled with this one thing. I want to see if God has some insight for me. I'm going to get deep on my meditation, and I want to see what I can get. And I went in with intention, and I actually found my intention.
So good.
And you can't find what you're not looking for. You also can't get enough of what you don't need because what you don't need can never satisfy. And a lot of us, we're basically trying to fill needs that are fake, they're false, they're not even real, and so it's like this money right here, right? I'm holding a stack, I don't know, $70,000-$80,000, and you know, there's a lot of people that think that money is the outcome they want, but money is never a deep enough why.
Right.
Right? It's like, well, what do you use the money for? I don't know. And then you push them over. It's like, well, I want what everyone wants. You know, nice car, nice house, vacation. I'm like, no. First of all, whatever you're about to do, I don't believe in you.
Yeah.
Like, what's your track record? It was like, I don't know, the last 10 things I tried, I got 3 of them. I'm like, okay, I don't believe in you. You're not going to win. I'm not betting on you. If you're a bet, I am not betting on you.
Yeah.
And it's like, how would I want to bet on you? Well, tying back to your why principle, you have to have a deeper why.
Yep.
And then you totally want to have, I think, the right mentor. And then you want to architect a plan starting with intentionality.
Exactly. So that's what we do. In the I Do Epic world, we start with your why, help you create your why, create your intention, architect that. And then every day we have a morning call to where you can get on and we know what your month is, down to your week is, down to your day, and you have to actually say that. When you say that you're going to get that done, we hold you accountable on that.
You're saying that you're tracking their daily drivers, their daily critical drivers that lead to their weekly KPIs, that lead to their monthly outcomes?
Exactly what it is.
Shoot, that's
crazy,
amazing accountability.
Crazy. And so they do that 5 days a week. It's a 10-minute phone call, 10 people on the call. So after that happens, what's really, really interesting is they all come back and go, I can't believe my business is growing. It's like, really?
Yeah.
What's the one thing you changed?
Daily tracking.
I'm actually daily tracking and I'm stating my why.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, interesting. What about stating your why is making it happen? I'm telling myself every day so I start to believe
They're
it.
programming it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing, right? We're messing with the brain, right? And so what happens is they get to where it's like, I'm accomplishing things I've never done before. And it's so exciting to see it happen.
I think there's a lot of people that don't really understand the way the brain works. And if I could break it down very simple, it's like you realize that you're having 70,000 measured thoughts a day.
Right.
And if every sentence houses 10, 15 words, you're almost using 1 million words a day. Yeah. And some of those words are conscious and some of them are unconscious, but they're also either positive or negative or high vibration and low vibration. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people that when they're living without intentionality, they're really also probably unintentional with their words too. And most people, when they're unintentional with their words, they gravitate towards lower vibrational language than higher vibrational language. And then they can't figure out why they're not getting what they want. It's like, well, you're being too unconscious. Yeah. You're leaning into your low vibe words and language like, oh, I had a bad day today. Oh, what made it a bad day? Well, this thing happened. Now you're complaining and whining. You're not taking accountability for what choice you made that led to that particular outcome. And if you use 1 million words a day and half of them or more are low vibration, it's like, got news for you. You ain't going to create anything that you want. You're going to create, by the way, what you don't want. Yeah. So this whole idea of creating versus reacting is actually a really big deal. And I love what you're breaking down in your epic movement is that you're actually showing this path of like, let's architect it, let's design it, let's provide a mentor, then we have an intention, and then we provide accountability.
Amen.
And you're right, that 10-minute phone call, like hop it on and basically saying, this is my why and what I'm doing and what I did.
Yeah.
That's huge because there's so many people that they don't have an accountability partner. And I've always told myself, like, if my life were on the line and I had something to do, I would want to paint myself into the deepest corner. I would want to give myself an absolutely awful, consequence if I don't do it. Might be my life on the line.
We do that.
And then I need to tell the whole world whether I did or didn't do it.
Amen. So good. And I'll tell you another thing that we do that I think is the most amazing part of it. So one of my biggest things I found, do you mind if I tell kind of an off story and come back to it? Okay, so when I was in the cycling world, I raced with an amazing human. And in fact, we were so competitive with each other that on Fridays, every time we'd ride together on Friday, it was like, we're just going to go on a nice casual ride.
There was never a casual ride.
It ended up, we both were just so competitive. Then on Saturdays, we'd absolutely not be able to ride, and it was just horrible. So we kind of made this rule, we never ride together on Fridays, okay? So one day I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden, this just, boom, pops in my head, text Shane. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to text Shane. Text Shane to ride with you today. I'm like, no, I'm not going to text Shane to ride with me today. But it came again. So I pulled over the side of the road, literally got on my phone, texted Shane. I don't hear back from him at all. So I'm like, of course not. Go to dinner with one of my buddies named Rob. We get to dinner that night and he goes, did you hear about Shane today? And I was like, no. He goes, he committed suicide.
Oh, no.
But he said, your text was the last one that he got. And I was like, man, thank goodness I texted him at that moment. Now, I tell you this story because it really struck something inside of me with architecting my life by design. And it was this: gratitude is everything. And any time that I see any entrepreneur or human that pops in my head, I want to send a text to them. I just tell them I think they're amazing. No matter if they're Kris Krohn or if they're like the most beginning entrepreneur there is. If they pop in my head, I instantly just send a gratitude
Can I
text.
tell you, bro, in the last year, I've gotten so many texts from you at random that were encouraging, they were building up.
Yeah.
And I just remember always thinking to myself, man, Bart is so amazing and so intuitive and so awesome and kind.
Thank you. But that's where it came from. So what I did is I created in this, part of the movement is that on Fridays, I ask everybody on every one of the calls, right? So we have hundreds of people, and I ask them to send 5 texts of just gratitude, random. I don't care if it's Facebook, wherever it is, just send those 5 texts out.
Jeez,
and we can change the world together.
That's why I get so many Friday texts from your people. I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you. I've been trying to figure out what's up with Fridays.
Totally. What's the deal? Why is it always
Just
on
kidding.
Friday? No,
That's
so
actually very, very cool, though, that came from such an awful situation, became so motivational to make a difference.
Because I knew if I'm going to architect my life by design, I had to help others get there.
Yeah.
And by doing that I know that I have those moments in life when that little voice comes in and says, hey, you're not enough to keep going, or this is happening, or that's happening, like I was talking about before. So when I send those texts out, miracles have happened from doing that over the years. And now that my tribe does that, it's even more amazing because we're changing all this around there. So that's another big part that we do.
That's beautiful, brother. So let's, I'm kind of curious, what is your why? Like when you take a look at everything of who you are in the world and what you do and what you create, which is, by the way, a great many things.
Thank you.
What's driving you today more than ever before? Is it still the game for potential, or is it something different?
Yeah, architecting people's life by design, but it's staying on the design I have for my life. And so it depends on if it's in so we're clear, that's my overarching. Now I also have whys in my family, and I have whys in different categories that I go through. So I'll tell you one of the whys that I do in I Do Epic, my beginning program. I take all that money because when I was a little boy, my number one dream, Kris, was to be a rodeo cowboy. I wanted to be it so badly. I wanted to calf rope. I wanted to do things. We just didn't have the finances to do it. So I sat on the fence and watched a lot of people. And so I decided I was going to build a program to where that money would support young rodeo cowboys that didn't get the chance. So I find young kids, we take that money, we support them, and we buy horses, we buy hay, we buy all sorts of things because I want to see, that's one of my designs that I have, is to see those kids actually rodeo because they wouldn't have ever had a chance to do it.
That's amazing. That's amazing so often that what drives us is our pain.
Amen.
Or what we missed out on or what we wish we had. And then doing something about it.
Amen.
And it's almost like erasing the carbon footprint of the disaster and just saying, actually, I got the fulfillment of helping others.
So much.
Dude, when I was a kid, I actually wanted to do martial arts, and my dad wouldn't let me do it, not because of money, just because I was a big kid, and he's just afraid I was going to hurt people. And it wasn't until my 30s when I said, I'm going to actually fulfill that dream and wish. And then I went and got my black belt and helped 3 of my kids get black belts. And,
that's so cool.
And it was just a cool thing to be able to go back and do something about it. And there's something very responsible about that kind of energy. For you to go back and want to do something for those kids is really beautiful.
It's so fun too. You know what I'm saying? Their faces, their parents' faces. Like last year, there was a lot of people during COVID year that couldn't afford diesel, like to get places. We were buying that, but just a lot of fun things. And you know, as you architect your life and you see that design start to come together, it's like a house. Yeah. You know, a lot of people think once they got this size of a house, they can't ever add on or do whatever they want to it. And guess what? You can demolish the entire thing and start over again if you want to. You don't have to. But that's the great thing about design is it can be changed as you grow, as you develop. And I just think having that first core plan, accomplishing that, and then exceeding is just what you got to do in life.
It's interesting because I feel caught in the world between having everything and then being a total minimalist. Like right now we're doing a 28,000 square foot add-on to our house, and we're like packing it with everything.
That's so cool.
But it's based on a philosophy. The philosophy is, what are things that we waste time traveling to go do that we can bring to us?
That's cool.
And so we brought in this full spa, and we brought in, like a 3-story rock climbing wall, a 3,200 square foot gym, and racquetball, and it's got this really cool pool that elevates itself out of the ground and just appears all of a sudden. It's a retreat center. It's all these different things. And there's a part of me that just loves to connect with people and bring people into my airspace and then share these really cool experiences together.
Yeah.
And then there's another part of me that's like, dude, I'd be happy just having nothing on this planet and just totally going back to nothingness. And it's weird. I feel like I struggle sometimes back and forth between these experiences that I want to create and then just also being a nobody.
But I will say that I think it's pretty beautiful because what you're saying there is you're not doing it to be a recluse. Like you're not doing it to escape the world.
No, it's to connect.
You're doing it, yeah. So I think there's a big difference in what you're saying. In both ways, you're able to connect with who you are and what others and help them have experiences that they would never have. And I think that's pretty cool.
It is. It gets me thinking though how the design changes. I'm kind of curious what in your architectural plan of your life has been changing different off plan than you thought. Like what's been shifting for you?
That's a great question. So right now is interesting. At this point in time, I've got a daughter getting married. And I've got a daughter having a baby.
Yeah.
And when I heard the word grandpa for the first time,
whoa. That did something to you?
It really did.
Really positive or negative?
I don't know. Like it was honestly, it was like, you know, you're going to hear it one day. You hope in your life.
There had to be some excitement, but there also had to be like, does this mean I'm getting old?
It was like, am I ready? And what does grandpa mean? And financially, all those things, just all of a sudden, it just really made me reflect.
Yeah.
I don't know why, just hearing that word, I sat down literally probably for an hour and just journaled because it just hit me so hard. And so, like you said, as design happens, I start to think, whoa, what is that next segment of my life look like? Am I healthy enough to be playing with this grandkid the way I want to? And a lot of those kind of things. And I'm like, I'm glad I'm in great shape. I'm glad I've taken care of my body. And I'm going to continue because I want that experience. And also it really made me think about, am I living life at its fullest right now? Because I can't live for the future. I don't know the future. But I can live for right now. And I want that grandbaby to understand that they can live for today.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So that's where my life is today, is really thinking about those kind of things.
Beautiful. What else has shifted in your architectural plan where you're like, well, this is what I think life's going to be, and then you find it kind of, because I imagine that along the way there has to be some pivots and turns and some things that change. Or is it more of like, no, actually, Kris, like I made the plan as like 10 years ago, and I'm still just barreling forward on it?
I think I'm barreling forward on it, but there's been a lot of changes with AI, with COVID, with a lot of things. There's been pivots or hiccups in the plan. I'm still on track where I want to be, but there's been things I've had to sit down and just reflect and say, what do I also need to look at? What am I maybe not doing that I should be doing? How much more pressure should I put on things? Stuff like that. So I think here's the other part. At a very young age, I decided, excuse me, goodness, I wanted to own a business, not be employed by a business.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big differentiation in that. And I've been very blessed to be able to have residual income enough to be able to own the business. And right now I find myself in a lot of stuff that I'm doing, stepping back in as an employee and as an owner, because I'm starting some new things.
Yeah.
And that's been a weird feeling for me. And so I'm really playing with that again, like working harder than I've worked before.
Yeah.
At the same time, really owning and operating and being able to, like I say, not be in the swimming pool, be on the lifeguard.
Yeah.
But yet jump in the swimming pool and swim a little bit and then jump back up there. And so that's been another interesting dynamic for me today, if I'm full transparency with you.
Yeah. So Wayne Dyer, the late Wayne Dyer, he once said something that just, dude, I'll never get it out of my soul. He said, that which is important in the spring of our life is different than that which is important in the fall of our life, right? We've got these seasons, and as we kind of go through them, I just looking back just on where I'm at in my life, and I'm like, I feel like I've been almost caught in a race where I just always know how to create more and create more and create more, but almost sometimes to the point of like, why? Mm-hmm. And lately, this last year, I've found myself often reflecting on like, everything I'm going after, is that what I really will want when I get there?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I love who I'm becoming in the pursuit of those things, but am I really on the right path and am I going in the right direction? Yeah. I find that I have a lot of those thoughts because, and I think a lot of that is driven from either some FOMO or just fear of regret. Like this idea of like, I want to be early to everything. I want to check all the boxes. I want to have done all the things, but I also don't want to stay longer in any chapter than I was ever meant to. So I feel like I'm constantly evaluating the plan. And my architectural plans used to be like decades into the future. And now I find that they're just years. Because part of me is just, I want to make sure that I don't want to stay stuck in a chapter too long.
Yeah, I don't think that's wise. I think if I go back into personal things, not into business things, I had a pretty architected life designed out for myself from a religious standpoint, different things to that nature. And I don't really talk about this a lot, but at one point, I decided to leave that traditional religion I was in. And when I did that, there was a lot of belief challenges.
Yeah.
And boy, that changed a lot of architecture in my family, in multiple generations of different people. And it really rocked my world in so many ways. But in doing that at an older age, I was able to sit with it and really say, why do I have this belief? And before in my life, I'd never challenged those beliefs.
Wow.
And so in challenging those beliefs, I was able to go back and say, is this something I want to believe in? Or is this something that I was taught that I need to believe in?
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting to walk through that.
Don't you think that every person at some point needs to go through and question everything to wonder if it's really just, am I doing this because it was given to me?
Amen.
Or am I doing this because it's mine?
So good.
It's my path.
I think, and that's where I was at. And I'd never done that before. I just kind of believed that it was what it.
Well, and it's kind of scary, right? I mean, when you either challenging religion or challenging society or challenging parents or everyone has these architectural designs for us, and we all have to start with someone's plans.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I think what I hear you saying is at some point you've got to create your own.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to put on your big boy underpants and say, maybe it's time for me to start designing my life instead of someone designing it for me.
Amen. Right or wrong. And the thing is that there is no right or wrong in my personal opinion.
If you're learning.
Exactly.
It's like, it's weird. I used to actually believe that you could only learn from not messing up. And what I've been learning is that actually there's a lot of learning when you do mess up. And I don't seek out messing up, but I'm also less afraid of it.
Yeah, me too. And by going through this process, it's made me way more open-minded. Like before, it was harder for me to stand in other people's shoes as much as I wanted to because I was like, they can't be right. Now, I'm able to stand in their shoes and go, maybe they are. Yeah. And I'm wrong. Yeah. And let me look at it from a different
angle. And how cool is that, by the way?
It's so fun. Yeah. Because I've learned so many cool things that I wasn't allowing myself to expand into.
Yeah, I call it the creation room. It's a special place. And everyone that knows me, I'm like, hey, can we step into the creation room? Like, oh, we know what that means. We know that means that Kris is going to explore an idea.
Love this.
And he's going to pull it apart and he's going to look at it from a legal perspective.
So good.
He'll explore illegal ideas, moral, immoral.
Right.
Like just everything. And
Why
it's just
not?
like, you can't really, like, to uproot victimhood from your soul in any given choice, you have to understand all of it.
Yep.
And sometimes people are afraid to look at the choices.
Amen.
Or they just want to say, I've always been heard about it's supposed to be this way. Let's just do it that way. It's like, well, do you understand why?
Yeah.
Have you really stopped to really think about it?
Yep.
And sometimes people are afraid because they feel like they're questioning, but really what you're doing is you're questioning. You're querying. You're really just saying, hey, like, I think I'm old enough, mature enough, and possess enough consciousness now to wrap my own mind around this, to really evaluate it and then understand it based on its merits of whether it's going to serve me or whether it's not going to serve me. I think that's a part of architectural design that some people are afraid of. That is an important part of
number one thing we're afraid of. Honestly, I think when we challenge our beliefs, there is nothing that scares us more.
Yeah.
Because then you got to go back and say, oh my gosh, why? And how did this come about? This, that, and the other. But it's an amazing rabbit hole. So not to get off on too far of a tangent. So I've been architecting my life differently that way too, spiritually, trying different things, looking at different things, why that's happened. But it's made me into a totally, I wouldn't say different person, but a way different outlook on life, for sure.
Final advice for anyone that's sitting here, and we've been talking, guys, with Bart Miller about designing your life, architecturing it intentionally, having support systems, having models, having codes, having mentors, men and women that have been there that can actually guide your path, having accountability so that you can then be responsible. All of these different pieces where ultimately it's about you expressing yourself and co-creating your way through life rather than just letting life just happen to you. Final words and wisdom from Bart Miller.
Yeah, my final words would be, if you're first and foremost, if you're just living life to live life, stop it. Take a few minutes, dream, and I mean dream big. Don't be afraid to dream. Write those dreams down and know that dreams come true. I'm here to testify. Yeah. Dreams do come true. And then start to architect your life backwards. So go to the end of your dream and say, what would it really take? For example, if I wanted to own a jet, what would it really take? Could I do that in my life? Yeah. And then start to go back, what would I need to do to through this design that I've made to do this? What would it take to do this, this, this? And start to go all the way backwards and then sit with that, put it on your vision board, go find the recipe that floats your boat. And I don't care if it's real estate. I don't care if it's marketing. I don't care what it is. If it's bodybuilding, go find the person who's been there, done that, pay whatever it takes to follow that, and then watch the outcomes start to happen because you architected your life, you found the recipe, you did it backwards so you know what you're going to get along the way, and then have the miracles happen in your life.
Here we go, man.
Here we go. Report back.
Bart, how do people find out more about you?
They can find me on social, and it's Bart Allen Miller, and the Allen spelled different, Allan. Or you can just go to I Do Epic, or you can find me anywhere.
I Do Epic. Bart Allen Miller.
Yeah.
Guys, find Bart, connect with him.
Geez,
he's an
thanks, Kris.
extraordinary human being who it's amazing. You know, we joke sometimes that some people are a jack of all trades and a master of none, but Bart's found a way to like say, well, actually, I'm a jack of many trades, but I'm a master of many. And it's extraordinary because, brother, you keep looking for your potential, you keep finding it. And I'm positive I got some people listening here today that are like, wow, I actually found what I'm looking for. I need someone like Bart to be my mentor, to be my guide, or to hang out with him and his philosophy a little bit more. So thank you for being here today. And everyone else, thank you for joining us on the Kris Krohn Show. We'll catch you on the next one.